Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that you can no longer buy food. You cannot pay your bills. You cannot access your bank account. You cannot purchase medicine. You cannot participate in the economy. Not because you are poor, not because you lost your job, but because you refuse a mark. For nearly 2,000 years, one prophecy has captured the imagination of believers, skeptics, historians, and theologians alike. A prophecy so mysterious that it continues to spark debate in every generation. It is known simply as the mark of the beast. Many people have heard the phrase. Few understand it. Some imagine a tattoo. Others imagine a computer chip. Still others dismiss the entire idea as superstition. But regardless of what people believe, one fact remains. The mark of the beast is one of the most discussed prophecies in human history. And as technology advances at an astonishing pace, many are beginning to ask a question that would have seemed impossible just a few decades ago. Could the world finally possess the technology required for such a system? To understand the answer, we must begin with the book of Revelation. Written by the Apostle John while exiled on the island of Patmos, Revelation contains some of the most dramatic imagery found anywhere in Scripture: beasts, angels, trumpets, judgments, and hidden among these visions is a warning. A warning concerning a future world system unlike anything humanity has ever seen. In Revelation chapter 13, John describes a powerful beast that rises to global influence. This beast is given authority, power, and worldwide admiration. People marvel at it, follow it, and submit to it. Then comes one of the most chilling passages in the entire Bible. John writes that the beast causes all people, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. Without this mark, no one can buy or sell that, and no buying, no selling, no participation in the economy. For most of human history, such a system would have been impossible. Thousands of years ago, people traded locally. Communities were small. Markets were independent. There was no global financial network, no digital tracking, no centralized databases. The logistics simply did not exist. Yet today, the situation is very different. Every purchase leaves a record. Every transaction creates data. Every financial movement can be tracked electronically. For the first time in human history, technology has made global economic monitoring possible on a scale previous generations could never imagine. This does not automatically mean the prophecy is being fulfilled, but it does explain why interest in the mark of the beast has increased dramatically in recent years. Many people look at the modern world and see conditions that appear increasingly compatible with the warning found in Revelation. Digital currencies, biometric identification, artificial intelligence, facial recognition systems, cashless transactions, global databases. None of these technologies are the mark of the beast, but they raise questions that previous generations never had to ask. Questions about privacy, questions about freedom, questions about control, and, perhaps most importantly, questions about dependency. Because the prophecy is not merely about a mark. It is about access. Access to commerce, access to participation, access to society itself. And that is what makes the warning so powerful. The prophecy describes a system capable of influencing nearly every aspect of daily life. A system where compliance is rewarded and refusal carries consequences. For centuries, people wondered how such a system could ever exist. Today, many wonder whether humanity is moving closer to making it possible. But before we jump to conclusions, we need to understand something important. The mark of the beast is not primarily a technology problem. It is a worship problem, and that distinction changes everything. For most of history, the prophecy of the mark of the beast seemed impossible. How could one system control buying and selling across the entire world? How could billions of people be monitored? How could governments or authorities track every transaction? The technology simply did not exist. A farmer could trade directly with a neighbor. A merchant could travel to another city and conduct business without leaving a record. Cash transactions were private. Markets were local. the world was fragmented. But in just a few decades, everything changed. The digital revolution transformed human civilization faster than almost any development in history. Today, billions of people carry devices in their pockets, more powerful than the computers that once sent astronauts to the moon. Every day, people communicate, shop, work, and bank through digital systems. Almost every action creates data. Every purchase, every search, every location, every transaction. For the first time in history, humanity possesses the ability to track economic activity on a global scale. Again, this does not prove the mark of the beast is here, but it does explain why many people see modern technology as relevant to biblical prophecy. Consider the rise of cashless societies. In some countries, carrying physical cash is becoming increasingly rare. People pay with cards, phones, smartwatches, digital wallets. Entire purchases can be completed without touching a single banknote. Supporters argue that cashless systems are faster, safer, and more efficient. And in many ways, they are. But critics raise an important question. What happens when every transaction becomes dependent upon a centralized system? What happens if access can be granted or removed? What happens if participation requires compliance? These questions become even more significant when combined with advances in identification technology. Biometric systems can now verify identity using fingerprints, facial recognition, retinal scans, voice patterns. Some systems can identify individuals within seconds. Others can track movements across vast areas. Again, these technologies have legitimate uses. They can improve security, reduce fraud, protect accounts, but they also reveal something remarkable. Humanity now possesses tools that previous generations could scarcely imagine. Tools capable of monitoring and verifying identity on a massive scale. Then there is artificial intelligence. Perhaps no technology has advanced more rapidly in recent years. AI systems can analyze enormous amounts of information, recognize patterns, monitor behavior, predict trends, and make decisions at incredible speed. Businesses use AI. Governments use AI. Financial institutions use AI. Healthcare systems use AI. The technology itself is neither good nor evil. Like any tool, its impact depends upon how it is used. But when people read Revelation's warning about economic control, they naturally notice how modern technology could theoretically support systems that once seemed impossible. For the first time in human history, global monitoring is technically achievable, and that realization causes many to pay closer attention to biblical prophecy. Some people believe these developments prove the mark of the beast is imminent. Others argue such conclusions are premature. The truth is that technology alone does not fulfill prophecy. A smartphone is not the mark of the beast. A credit card is not the mark of the beast. Artificial intelligence is not the mark of the beast. The Bible describes something much deeper, something spiritual, something connected to loyalty and worship. That distinction is crucial because throughout history, many people have mistakenly identified various technologies as the mark. When barcodes became common, some believed barcodes were the mark. When credit cards appeared, some believed credit cards were the mark. When credit cards appeared, some believed credit cards were the mark. When computers spread across society, some believed computers were the mark. Each generation has interpreted new technology through the lens of prophecy. And while technological developments may create conditions relevant to future events, the technology itself is not the central issue. The central issue is allegiance. Who receives your loyalty? Who receives your trust? Who receives your worship? That is the real question Revelation forces humanity to confront. The mark of the beast is associated with a system that demands devotion, a system that seeks authority over people's lives, a system that opposes God. This is why many scholars emphasize that the prophecy cannot be reduced to a piece of technology. The warning is spiritual before it is technological. The danger begins in the heart long before it appears on the hand or forehead. The hand often symbolizes actions. The forehead often symbolizes beliefs. Whether understood literally, symbolically, or both, the message remains powerful. The mark represents identification with a system opposed to God, a system that prioritizes human authority above divine authority, a system that promises security but demands submission. And perhaps that is what makes the prophecy so relevant today, because modern society constantly faces similar temptations. The temptation to place trust in systems rather than truth. The temptation to seek security at any cost. The temptation to sacrifice freedom for convenience. History shows that people often surrender liberties gradually, not because they intend to, but because the changes appear beneficial at first. A little more convenience, a little more efficiency, a little more security. Over time, the cumulative effect becomes significant. Again, this does not mean every technological advancement is dangerous. Many innovations improve lives. The Bible does not condemn progress. The issue is not progress. The issue is whether progress becomes an idol, whether technology becomes a substitute for wisdom, whether human power becomes a substitute for God. And that is why the prophecy remains so fascinating, because it is not merely about the future. It is also about the present. It asks questions every generation must answer. Questions about loyalty, questions about values, questions about truth, questions about what people are willing to compromise in exchange for comfort and security. And those questions become increasingly important in a world that grows more connected every year. As technology continues advancing, the conversation surrounding the mark of the beast will likely continue as well. But before jumping to conclusions, we must understand what the prophecy actually says, and perhaps more importantly, what it does not say. Because some of the most common beliefs about the mark are not found anywhere in Scripture. And understanding those misconceptions may be just as important as understanding the prophecy itself. Before drawing conclusions about the mark of the beast, we need to address one of the biggest problems surrounding this prophecy: fear. For decades, rumors have spread through churches, books, television programs, and the internet. Almost every major technological advancement has been accused of being the mark. People have pointed to barcodes, credit cards, microchips, vaccines, national ID systems, digital currencies, and countless other things. Yet generation after generation, those predictions failed. Why? Because many people focused on the technology while ignoring the larger message. The Bible never tells Christians to spend their lives searching for a particular invention. Instead, Scripture repeatedly emphasizes discernment, wisdom, faithfulness, and spiritual readiness. The mark of the beast is not merely about a tool. It is about allegiance that in Revelation. Receiving the mark is connected to worship. People do not accidentally receive it. They knowingly align themselves with a system opposed to God. This is a critical point. Many people worry they might unknowingly receive the mark without realizing it. But Revelation presents a very different picture. The choice appears deliberate, conscious, intentional, involves loyalty, commitment, submission. That means the greatest danger may not be technological at all. The greatest danger is spiritual deception. Throughout history, humanity has repeatedly shown a willingness to exchange truth for comfort, freedom for security, conviction for convenience. The book of Revelation warns about exactly that kind of compromise. A future where many people choose temporary benefits over eternal truth. And perhaps that is why the prophecy remains so relevant. Because the underlying temptation already exists. Not just in governments, not just in institutions, but within every human heart. The desire to avoid hardship, the desire to fit in, the desire to follow the crowd, the desire to choose comfort, even when it conflicts with conviction. These struggles are not new. They have existed throughout history. The mark of the beast represents the ultimate expression of that conflict. A moment when humanity must choose between loyalty to God and loyalty to a system that opposes him. And that brings us to a question many people ask. If the mark is connected to the future, what should believers do today? The answer may be simpler than many expect. The Bible does not tell Christians to live in fear. It does not tell them to panic every time new technology appears. It does not tell them to obsess over conspiracy theories. Instead, Scripture repeatedly calls believers to remain faithful, to know the truth, to develop wisdom, to strengthen their relationship with God, to resist deception, and to trust God regardless of circumstances. The early Christians faced persecution. They faced pressure. They faced systems that demanded loyalty. Yet they remained faithful. The lesson remains the same today. The greatest preparation for future challenges is not fear. It is faithfulness. Because if the mark of the beast is ultimately about allegiance, then the battle begins long before the mark appears. It begins in daily choices, daily convictions, daily acts of obedience. Every generation faces moments when truth becomes costly. Every generation faces pressure to compromise. Every generation must decide whom it will serve. That is why Revelation continues speaking across the centuries. Not because it merely predicts future events, but because it reveals timeless truths about human nature, about power, about deception, about loyalty, and about the importance of remaining faithful when the world moves in a different direction. The mark of the beast remains one of the most mysterious prophecies in Scripture. Many questions remain unanswered. Many details remain debated. Yet the central message is remarkably clear. Do not be deceived. Do not surrender truth for convenience. Do not place ultimate trust in earthly systems. And above all, remain faithful to God. As technology advances and the world becomes increasingly interconnected, discussions about the mark of the beast will continue. Some warnings will prove accurate, others will not. But the real challenge remains unchanged. Will people recognize deception when it appears? Will they remain faithful when pressure increases? Will they stand firm when compromise becomes attractive? Those are the questions Revelation asks. And those questions may become increasingly important in the years ahead. Perhaps the mark of the beast is closer than many realize. Or perhaps the world still has much further to go. No one knows for certain. But one thing is clear. The warning was never given to create fear. It was given to create awareness, to encourage wisdom, to strengthen faith, and to remind believers that no earthly system lasts forever. Empires rise. Empires fall. Technologies appear. But truth remains. The world may change. The economy may change. Governments may change. Technology may change. But God's call remains the same. Remain faithful. Remain watchful. Remain prepared. Because the greatest battle described in Revelation is not about technology. It is about worship. It is about loyalty. It is about the human heart. And that battle is already happening all around us. The question is not whether the mark of the beast matters. The question is whether people will recognize the deeper warning before it is too late. And perhaps that is exactly what Revelation intended us to ask. Now, what do you think about this? Leave a comment and subscribe.